session, I will talk about the managerial skills. As you see, that is the whenever we are talking about the managerial effectiveness, and in managerial effectiveness we are having the formula, and the formula is that is how we are going to increase our managerial effectiveness, and there this particular course which helps you to develop and enhance your managerial effectiveness through managerial skills. So, we will have the introduction, we will have the definition of the managerial effectiveness and how this concept has been developed, what are the basic managerial philosophies are there, models of managerial effectiveness I will be discussing is there, right. So, therefore, in that case we will find that is the how we talk about the managerial effectiveness. In managerial effectiveness we talk about the first formula of a successful to be manager, and the to successful manager. So, managerial effectiveness is equal to the A into M, A into M into O. So, what is A? What do you think by A? And A is ability. And what type of the ability is there? The ability which is required, that is the first is the functions, roles and skills. Please try to understand, that is the if you want to increase the managerial effectiveness, then therefore in that case you should know the functions. The functions for the manager is first is the planning, right, and then the second function which you go for the organizing, then you are going for the leading, coordinating is the part of this organizing, then control, right. So, therefore, these planning, organizing, and which is the staffing and coordinating, and the leading and control is there. So, therefore, here we will see that is the in every function the role of interpersonal relationship is becoming very, very important. I would like to take first the planning function. So, when we are talking about the planning function, and in the planning function you talk about the goal, right, then you talk about the strategies, and then you talk about the all the members, those who are working for the common vision. What it means? It means that we, whenever we want to do any particular function, we have to involve everybody. I have in my previous session I have talked about the our organization, and when we talk about the our organization, whatever planning we are doing, then in that particular planning what is required, and the requirement is this, that is we are having the ownership, and that ownership about this particular planning is that it is the common vision. It cannot be, the vision cannot be in isolation. One person comes and says this is our vision and you follow it. That is not the right way. Rather than whatever our vision, our mission statements are there, we have to involve our all stakeholders. And that particular function that then increase the networking of people, networking of stakeholders, internal and external both. So, therefore, employees also and customer also and suppliers also and others also. So, therefore, in that case, whenever we are talking about the managerial effectiveness, and while planning function is there, we have to be very careful in designing our vision, mission statement. If we develop that vision and mission statement jointly, the focus was jointly our vision, our mission, organization's vision and mission. Organization means what? Organization means all all stakeholders who are directly or indirectly associated with the organization. Next function that comes about, that is the organizing. So, when we talk about the organizing function, in organizing function we are talking about the staffing, how to organize, and therefore, in staffing we are talking about the roles and responsibilities. So, when you talk about the roles and responsibilities, then in that case it becomes very important, that is the how you are creating those roles and responsibilities. So, roles are given to the employees, different roles. So, therefore, role may be, as I mentioned, the role of the in the hierarchy, it is the superior's role, or it can be role of a subordinate's role. If there is a superior's roles or the subordinate roles, and then in that case we have to find out, that is the how and to whom we have to give these roles, and therefore, in that case this is becoming a very important. If you know your employees, and knowing the employees is not through the only performance appraisals, but by the interactions, by communication. Now, this communication may not be face to face communication. I can understand a LE, large enterprise, that cannot have a face to face communication with all, but definitely a leader can communicate with the help of different channels of communication, maybe the written communication, or maybe with the policies. Whenever you are making a policy, you are communicating. You are communicating how much you are concerned. For example, health policy, safety policy, welfare policy. So, whenever you are making these policies, the employees will understand how caring are you about their employees, and therefore, and to whom you are giving these responsibilities. Please understand, in the case of the organizing, the positions of the managerial positions. So, those managerial positions are required to be very specifically included, and therefore, in that case you have to find out who will who, and therefore, your organizations creating that particular organization structure in the organization with the roles and responsibilities, and that is the organization structure. And in this organization structure, who will be who and where he will be placed. So, then in that case that will be the part of your organizational structure and indication how much you are concerned with your employees, and that will also develop an association with the organizations. Third one is, that is about the leading. How do you lead? The most important point is, that is the path goal theory, and therefore, in that case you show the direction. And in leading, the most important in case of the interpersonal dynamics I am talking about, and that will be the mentoring. Leader has many roles, but in interpersonal dynamics role, I will talk about the mentoring, how you are doing that particular mentoring, and therefore, in that case how do you lead, and this will be very important, that is the mentoring has been done. And then finally, the control, what is the control mechanism, and control mechanism is to improve, is to correct, not to punish. The objective is not to punish, objective is for what? To improve the level of organization, making the organization a great organization, right, and organization where the most of the employees are happy, creating the happiness index that I have talked in my last session also. So, therefore, in that case you will find that is what is your approach for these particular functions, and in these functions while you are doing the planning, or you are organizing, or you are coordinating, or controlling, or staffing. So, in every aspect you have shown a concern for your employees, and therefore, when you show while performing these functions as a concern for your employees, you will find you are able to do that particular function and roles very effectively is there, that classification of roles. The third part with the ability, that is becoming very important, and that is the how these skills or ability to skills are important. That is the, if you are able to develop that particular skill, right, then in that case whether the skills are there and how do you perform those skills, that becomes very important is there. So, what type of the skills are there? So, therefore, the skills are the technical skills. And in technical skills, it is the I want to share as a job knowledge. So, you develop that particular job knowledge skills in the organization, and when you develop that particular job knowledge skills in the organization in your employees. So, if you recall the last lecture, and therefore, I said that is in the job creation, job ownership, these job skills should play a very important role. So, what is to be done? You are giving the training to the employees. Now, when you give the training to the employees, the challenge with the training to the employees will be, that is the how you can stop the employees for turnover. Many organizations, they find if they empower their employees, then those employees, they switch to the another job after empowerment. So, there is a threat. So, what do you think? Do you agree that training is to be provided, or you do not agree that training is not to be provided? Because if you do not provide the training, then they will continue in your organization. If you provide the training, they will switch over. So, what to do? To provide or not to provide the training? And dear friends, here is the very important aspect is there, and that aspect is there. We have to provide the training, because they may not be the all may be the switch over, but there will be the many those organizations continuing with the organization, and they are the empowered with the training. So, they will not be the liability after certain period of time to the organization, they will be assets to the organization. So, your organizational intellectual capital, your organization's human capital, and that will be developed by developing their technical skills, by developing their job knowledge. And when you develop their technical skills and job knowledge, they will become a very efficient and effective employees. And as soon as your efficient and effective employees level is increased from the level 1 to level 2, level 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, the 5 maturity level, and then in that case definitely you will find your organization is doing good. However, in this process I do agree there will be some employees, right, they may not be continue with your journey, but in the most of the employees will continue with your journey, and they will be the competent employees. They will not be the liability to the organization, and therefore, in that case this technical skills, that is becoming a very important aspect in case of developing the ability to the employees in the job knowledge with the help of developing interpersonal relationship. Now, the another very interesting skill which develops the ability, and that ability is about the HR skills. So, whenever there are the HR skills are there, how you develop the HR skills, that you have to see. So, after you are this in ability, the first was the technical skill and second is the HR skills. What are those HR skills? Or interpersonal dynamic skill is there. So, in HR skills you have to first develop the their managing the interpersonal relationship human relations and human relations at workplace, and that can be developed with the help of the dynamic leadership qualities, dynamic team building effectiveness, dynamic emotional intelligence, creating the happiness index at workplace. So these are the certain examples which will lead toward the HR skills. So whether it is the conflict management, it is a stress management, it is a change management, all these functions in the what we study in the organizational behavior, they all these functions of the your the personality of leadership, motivation, change management, stress management, conflict management, emotional intelligence, team building, organizational ownership, organizational citizenship behavior, all these are example of the HR skills are there. So some of the functions I will take in different sessions also in detail. So what is important, that whenever we are talking about the managerial effectiveness and the ability, in ability you have to develop that particular HR skills. If you develop those HR skills, you are the master of the managerial effectiveness. Third is becoming a very important, and that is the conceptual skills. What is a conceptual skills? Like data into information, information into knowledge, knowledge into wisdom, wisdom into truth. So data into information, information into knowledge, that particular transformation and the transaction of that knowledge level, that is only possible when your employees are having the strong conceptual skills are there. I was giving the example of the policies of the organization, and creation of OCB, organizational citizenship behavior. Here you will find that is the policies of the organizations are such helpful to the employees, which is creating a citizenship behavior in the organization. And therefore it becomes very important, that is the how you develop the conceptual skills of the your employees, and while those are developing the conceptual skills of the employees, they will create the citizenship and ownership behavior is there. And the fourth one is, and that is about the analytical skills. In analytical skills, it is very important, that is the when you are making the growing organization and achieving your vision, then how do you, whatever the report comes to you, how do you analyze that? What is your analytical ability? And nowadays when we are talking about the artificial intelligence and big data, then naturally that your analytical skill, that will make you more effective your workplace, more effective will be the organization, more effective the healthy work environment in the organization. And therefore whenever we are talking about the ability, so in ability we have to talk about these under the skills we have to talk about the technical skills, human skills, conceptual skills and analytical skills. So all these aspects that you will find that has been associated into this particular skills development. Then if you are able, the another important managerial skill which is here for your effectiveness, and that is the motivation, willingness of the motivation. In motivation we have gone through the different theories. Need theories is there, basically the Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs, where we talk about the physiological needs, safety needs, social needs, self-esteem need and self-actualization need is there. So every individual is having the different needs. However, the criticism is there is not necessarily, there will be hierarchy of needs is there, that is not necessarily that there will be first the physiological need and then only safety, then only the social, then only the self-esteem and then only self-actualization. So not necessarily these needs will be into the hierarchy, but yes, for motivation, satisfaction of need is very important. So whenever we are talking about the managerial effectiveness, then in that case the skill which is required to satisfy the needs of other employees. If you are an effective leader then an effective leader, if you are not able to motivate your people, then definitely it will be very difficult to get work done. And that I have mentioned earlier, intrinsic motivation, right, and that intrinsic motivation means motivation from inside, and inside motivation, willingness, that will be the permanent, rather than that is the situational contingent based the motivation is there, right. So, because as soon as the need will be fulfilled, the situation will match, goal will be achieved, then there will be no motivation. So, there should be a constant and continuous motivational level, and that constant and continuous motivation can be possible only when you are keeping a long term goals. So, for the managerial effectiveness, you should learn how to develop those manpower or human capital for the organization, which will be highly motivated, and therefore, in that case you will find that is the motivation will be the important factor. Now, whenever we are talking about this third factor, and that is about the opportunity. So, therefore, in that case you will find that is this O is for opportunity. So, ability into motivation and into opportunity, and when you create that opportunity, however, the opportunity can be created by self and opportunity can be created by others, and therefore, in that case you will find when the others are creating the opportunity, then it will be difficult. That is the how challenging it will be very highly challenging task, and that for challenging task again you will require the people with you, and therefore your HR skills, your interpersonal skills, that will help you. But dear friends, do not forget that in this particular model which I am talking about, A into M into O for the managerial effectiveness, and developing those skills and motivation, and then the opportunity by self, opportunity by others, you will find that is the sign is multiplication, it is not addition. I am sure you must have noticed this. And if the sign is multiplication, means if any factor I keep 0, right, so overall ME will be 0. What is important is this, that is by developing these managerial effectiveness skills, we can make the maximization of the ability, motivation and opportunity, and not by not by this particular concept, that is about the making the 0 into A into M into O, rather than maximizing that ability into motivation into the opportunity is there. So, this was the understanding, that is the how we can make the managerial effectiveness is there. Organizations are now for this purpose, what is required, that is the qualified human cadres are required, MBAs are required. MBAs are not by the qualification, but MBAs by the knowledge, attitude and skills, and therefore, in that case it will be that is the those who understand what is the job of a manager and how to do the effective job, and therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the when you are having the qualified people. Now, many people say that is there are many leaders who have not done MBA, but they are successful, and successful like anything, they are becoming the legendary personalities. True, because they may not be MBA qualified, but their style of functioning, these functions and these roles and then skills which I have explained, they were practically executing those. Some people, they learn in the classroom and then they demonstrate that functions, roles and skills. Some people, they demonstrate the same functions, roles and skills without going to the classroom. So, therefore, what it means? It means that importance is not that is the person is qualified by the on the document or not. Importance is whether he is qualified or not, but whether he is able to demonstrate either in the natural approach or by the learned approach, which he has learned in the MBA class, and therefore, in that case it is the, when we talk about the organization depends on the qualified human beings, and those qualified human beings are, when we talk about the human capital, when you are talking about the human resource. Therefore, in that case it is becoming very, very important, that is the how we are going with this particular process of the dynamism. Because another concept, employees play an imperative role in the vital aspect of escalation and the survival of organizations due to their ability to make decisions and the consequent impact of these decisions. So, this is a talent management basically. So, whenever we are talking about the talent management, so employees play a very, very important role, very, very important role, right. And therefore, if you want to escalate your organization from the good organization to the great organization, then definitely it is because of their decision making power. So, when we talk about the planning and when we talk about the goal, when you talk about the vision, what will be the vision, what will be the planning, how will you organize, how will you lead, how will you control, all these functions, right, they are taken by those managers in the organizations, and if they are highly qualified by knowledge and their ability to take the right decisions. For example, leadership. When we are talking about the leadership, what is most important? Most important is vision. Do they have a vision or not? If they have the vision, then definitely in that case they will be able to perform in a better way, and this will be their consequence or the relationship with their employees. Managers play a significant role in the development, formulation and the execution of the organization's long term as well as short term strategies that determine corporate success. A wonderful output, however commonly known, that is the always managers, they are the backbone of the organizations, because one side they have to get executed the strategies demonstrated by the time management, or they have to execute the and demonstrate their activities for the future requirement. So, currently when we are going into the organizations with the development organizations, so we find that is the artificial intelligence, robotics, right, big data analysis, and that is becoming the more and more important skill and job, because it is the whatever is the output of the analysis, the results. So, but one should know how to bring the results, otherwise if there is a software and in the software if you will give the information of the income of X and the expenditure of Y, then definitely the software will give you the savings, right, because software does not know whether you have put the income of A and the expenditure of Y. So, therefore, he will make the x minus y and therefore, he will give you the savings. So, therefore, in that case what is important is the people behind the machine, man behind the machine, that is becoming more important rather than only the machine. So, therefore, we cannot ignore the importance of human resources, and there whether now if you want to turn your organization, many PSUs are searching for their long term goals, and if they are searching for the long term goals, then in which direction they want to go. So, for example, it is the energy or environment or agriculture, which area the employees should be organization should lead, and therefore, in that case it is the long term goals that will depend on the development and formulation of your executives. And when we talk about the PSUs in India, you will find the employees, the working life in the same organization is much higher as compared to the employees working into a private organization. Then in that case it means that through the that particular process of working in for the 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, up to 30 years and more than that may be. So, then in that case it is the what the development has been incorporated amongst the employees. If the employees are have gone through a continuous training program and development and they have developed, so it may not be the 100%, but maybe the 70%. If the 70% employees those who have been developed, then definitely they will be having these better results in the development of the organizations in the long term. However, this can be for the short term also. The current business, I would like to take the example of the current business. When we talk about the current business, then the current business is an example for the purpose of the short term goals, and therefore again you have manpower and how they work together, how they collectively work, how is their managerial effectiveness, and in the managerial effectiveness means again, please do not forget, that is about the ability into motivation into the opportunity. So, developing the manpower competency, nurture the talent, retain the talent, develop the talent, right. So, then that is becoming a very critical role for the managerial effectiveness, and in all these aspects your interpersonal relationship, that is becoming very important. If you are having the good relationship with your superior, with the subordinates, with the colleagues, and not only the persons surrounding to you, but interdepartmental also, and not only within the organization, but outside of the organization also. So, where do you represent yourself? How do you represent yourself? That is becoming very important, and therefore, in that case, when a manager who is able to deliver his results with the knowing the functions, he is knowledgeable, he knows how to do this. So, in a family also, right, and therefore, in that case you will find that is developing the relationships with the all relatives, retaining the relationship with all these relatives, and that is a wonderful example of the HR skills. It is how through the HR skill an efficient housewife, he is able to work into the joint family also, and he is able to satisfy the individual, the unit also. So, individual unit nowadays is small, but not only the individual unit, but also extended family also, and therefore, you will find that is the women managers many times are better than the male managers. So, the reason is that is the HR skill, understanding that is the role and importance of the interpersonal relationship, understanding the dynamics of the interpersonal relationship in their functions, roles and skills of the management, and therefore, it may not be the formal and qualified management only, but it can be the informal, it can be the family, it can be the department, it can be whole organization, it can be the global level organization and not only the national level organization. So, whatever the challenge you give, the one effective manager is capable to apply his interpersonal dynamics and interpersonal skills to make his effective management. So, therefore, this is all about in the short about the introduction of the managerial effectiveness. In my next session, I will talk again about the detailing about managerial effectiveness and role of interpersonal dynamics. Thank you.